Sportscast, April 7th, 2020. If you haven't yet, please subscribe on all our channels, YouTube, Periscope, and iTunes. And if you're in iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. And visit us on thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net for the latest and greatest when it comes to sports news and jerseys. Today's sponsor is Insta Bible app, Create Verses in Pictures. You can get the app on the iOS App Store today. The NFL Draft is coming up, and one school that supplies great talent to the NFL is Alabama Crimson Tide. A couple of key figures like Tua, Jerry Jeudy, Trayvon Diggs, to name a few. But where will they go? Also, where is Jalen Hurts, who used to go to Alabama? Where will he go? And joining us, the commentator for Alabama, Mr. Justin Riley, and we got a special guest, Stephen Smith from Touchdown Alabama. Welcome, guys, to the Sportscast.
Glad to be here, man. Excited for this opportunity to talk some Alabama football.
Stephen, welcome to the Sportscast.
Man, I'm excited. I'm pumped up. I'm happy to take my Tuesday and spend it with you guys.
Justin, have a little bit quick intro of how you found Stephen Smith, and then we'll go to Stephen Smith and tell a little bit about yourself. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, man, just being a big Alabama supporter and supporting it pretty much with the Sportscast, but then with my own Twitter account, I ran across Stephen here and came across a lot of his articles as well as his live podcast, and just I noticed the great material, the content that he's provided. And if you're an Alabama fan, you definitely tune in to what he is putting out there. So I couldn't wait to get him here to talk with us today.
And Stephen Smith, tell us a little bit about yourself and Touchdown Alabama.
Well, about myself, born in Virginia, but grew up in Alabama my entire life. I went to college at the University of Alabama here in Tuscaloosa. Went there from 2011 to 2015, earned my degree in broadcast journalism with a minor in computer science. I've been covering this team for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Well, I've been with the magazine since '09. I've been covering the team extensively since 2011, so I've been a part of watching the ever maturation of Nick Saban with this program in terms of championships, recruiting, and things of that nature. So being able to travel, being able to work with Touchdown Alabama magazine, that handle on Twitter at TD Alabama Mag, and having a chance to do my own show, which is In My Own Words, the podcast. It's fun, and I don't take it for granted at all. I'm enjoying it.
Let's go into the elephant of the room. Jalen Hurts transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma, had a stellar year with Oklahoma. Improved his throwing, you can say, is very debatable these days. You wrote an article that is titled NFL Draft Analyst Has Jalen Hurts as Potential Fifth Quarterback Taken in the First Round of the NFL Draft. This is very controversial because many experts are kind of split decision on this. Some say low as like the fifth round. Some say as high as the first round. Stephen Smith, what is your analysis over Jalen Hurts and also about this article?
Well, first off, my analysis of Jalen Hurts is this is a young man that has tremendous leadership. Not too many people can go through the situation he went through at Alabama and keep a strong mentality, keep a strong face, keep a strong poise about himself. Keep in mind, this young man set records with the Crimson Tide under Nick Saban. We're looking at a guy that threw for over 5,000 passing yards, 5,626. He had 71 total touchdowns in his career. I mean, led this team to an SEC championship as a freshman in 2016 and could have won a national championship as a freshman if not for Clemson having Deshaun Watson on the whole other side of the field. But there were some flaws in his game. We can understand that. But for the most part, a very, very talented, very determined, a very gifted athlete. And then he goes to Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley for the 1 year he was there, 2019, and had a massive year. Completed, 71% of his throws, had over 3,000 yards passing, over 1,000 yards rushing, had 53 total touchdowns, including 1 receiving. He's the first guy to take 2 different programs and 2 different conferences under 2 different head coaches to the college football playoff. Not many people can say that. And then when you look at how he performed in the combine, you had guys like Daniel Jeremiah, a former scout who's an analyst for NFL Network, Bucky Brooks, former scout, analyst for NFL Network, Kurt Warner, former NFL quarterback who won a Super Bowl with the Rams, is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All of these guys kept saying there's so much things to like about Jalen, so much good here, so much good here. Daniel Jeremiah was talking about how he doesn't see the guy falling out of the second round, but then he came back and he made note of in the first round, but not a part of that first round, a particular pick 31, which just so happens to be the San Francisco 49ers. There are a lot of little whispers out there saying that they may not even use the pick. They may look to trade out the pick. So if the 49ers trade out of a 31st overall pick, somebody could trade in late and get Jalen Hurts at that spot. There could be quite a number of trades that may transpire here in the first round. So for a guy that he may not be the prototypical quarterback, but this is a guy that if you get him in the right system with the right coaching, with playmakers around him, he's got the intangibles to be very special at the next level.
Let's go to Justin. Justin he shares the same sentiments for Jalen Hurts, but does Justin believe can Hurts go into the first round?
Well, I absolutely think he can. I think that his status has dramatically risen since he left the University of Alabama. And one of the biggest things, like Stephen pointed out, was just his leadership ability and what he provides to a team, what he provides to a locker room. You know, for anyone that would normally endure the adversity that he did, they probably would have given up. They would have packed their bags and they would have ran off. Well, he didn't do that. He endured the storm. He took it as a teachable moment, and he humbled himself, and he used the opportunity to begin to work on the flaws, like Stephen mentioned, and began to improve in those areas. And then when he got to Lincoln Riley, a guy that is known for just being an offensive genius and a guy that really can develop players, especially at the quarterback position, he flourished. He set his best career totals while at Oklahoma. I mean, over 3,000 yards and like Stephen said, over 1,000 yards rushing. He just continued to improve in every facet of his game. And one thing that was true of him while he was at Alabama, he relied so heavily upon his legs. He would look to one read, and if it wasn't available, he relied on Old Faithful, his legs, and would take off. Well, that began to slowly disappear or maybe even out, and he began to develop as a passer. So he wasn't one-dimensional anymore, and it's began to cause people to look around and say, hey, this guy might be someone we can really continue to work with and perhaps even be the quarterback of the future. I really like what he did in the combine, and he impressed all the right people. And I would not be surprised if he did end up going in the first round. So, Steve is not the only person who shares this sentiment.
The argument, of course, is Jalen Hurts the 5th quarterback being selected in the NFL draft. Here are the probable favorites of the top 4 is Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, and no order. Those things could be interchangeable. And the 5th quarterback, you guys are saying Jalen Hurts. Now, there's other quarterbacks like Jake Fromm, Jake Eason, and Nate Stanley from Iowa. We'll go with Steven. Why do you think Jalen could be that 5th over Jake Fromm or even Jake Eason?
Well, why I see Jalen here as the 5th guy, and no offense at all to Eason or Fromm. I mean, when you look at Jake Fromm, he was somebody that, of course, came to Georgia in 2017 as a 5-star quarterback, and he comes in there. Jacob Eason was hurt at the time, so Jake Fromm comes in, steps up, takes the team to a national championship game. Despite losing to Alabama, he played well and has had a pretty solid career at Georgia. Now, of course, last year he had some ups and downs. Went to the combine, did fairly decent, but if you look at today's essence of the NFL, they're bringing more of the college football concept to the league. For the longest of time, if you look at the draft, if you were to draft 20 quarterbacks, 10 would hit and 10 would become busts. And so NFL scouts, GMs, coaches, owners, for the longest of time, they wanted to kind of figure out how do we get more of our quarterbacks from college to be successful, to hit and have productivity. So they decided to adapt more of this RPO spread offense from college and embrace a lot of these concepts from these hotshot offensive minds. This is what we're getting from the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Patrick Mahomes of the world. Now, am I saying that Jalen Hurts can be just like those two guys? Not necessarily, but the skill set of those two guys, you can see some of that or pieces of that in Jalen Hurts' game. So due to Hurts' mobility, the way the NFL has taken on more of the college football concepts and how the game has started to evolve, that's why I would put a Hurts over an Eason or a Jake Fromm.
Justin, you followed Jake Fromm this past season. Do you think Jalen Hurts can surpass him in the draft order?
Well, it's quite possibly. I just think that Jalen Hurts just brings more to the table athletically than what Jake Fromm can bring. You know, Jake Fromm is a decent passer, but not really known for being a runner. And Jalen Hurts can be that. He can take over a game with his arm now, but as well as his legs. So, and that's the direction that the league is going into, the mobile quarterback, the versatile quarterback. It's not so much anymore the drop back passer. It's becoming the thing of the past. And Jalen is part of this wave of the future. So I feel like with his skill set, as well as with his leadership ability, I just think that he just adds a little bit more to the table than what Jake Fromm and Jake Eason provide.
The biggest doubt for Jalen Hurts is the arm, Steven. Do you think he improved this past season with Oklahoma with his throwing arm?
I think he improved this past season. And just going back to kind of the secret here of Jalen Hurts, when Jalen came in from Channelview, little suburb of Houston, Texas, when Jalen came in 2016 to Alabama, he was never taught how to be a conceptual quarterback. That position is based on concepts, it's based on reads, it's based on a lot of different language and verbal and word jargon. You're playing off of concepts. And Jalen's father, who was his high school coach, taught him how to be an athlete, versus a quarterback. So he kind of had to learn some things on his own, so to speak, and even him being benched in the championship game for Tua Tagovailoa taught some things also due to the fact how Tua was taught the game of quarterback at the position of quarterback based on concepts. Him going to Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts going to Oklahoma and learning from a quarterback developer, a whisperer, a savant, if you will, in Lincoln Riley, I think that enhanced his game. I think it built up his game. And I think it kind of showed Jalen how to play the quarterback position, not just being an athlete, but actually breaking down those concepts of how to go through progressions, how to read the defense, how to judge which route to go to, how to work through progressions. He learned how to play of concepts at Oklahoma, something that he did not do at Alabama based on he was never taught that from the beginning of his upbringing.
Justin Riley. I actually lost Justin Riley. Let me get him back on the phone. For some reason, I tried to unmute him, but let me get him back, and we'll get him back. So, Steven, obviously, you were saying the Niners were going to pick him up. You think he'll be a good fit with the 49ers?
I think he would be. The offensive guy that Kyle Shanahan is, what he was able to do with Jimmy Garoppolo this past season, getting the team to the Super Bowl. Now, of course, they came up short to the Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes and the likes of Andy Reid as head coach. But I would like to see what he could do, what Jalen Hurts could do in San Fran behind Jimmy G, learn from Jimmy G, or even just create him a role right there. I think Kyle Shanahan is a really good coach, a young coach, so we'll see more of him in the future. I would like to move with him to San Fran.
Justin, what have you heard about Jalen? Where do you think he'll go? Obviously, Steven says that the Niners will be a good spot. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's definitely a good spot, just from a standpoint of what Stephen just mentioned. He's going to be working with, potentially working with Shanahan, a guy that's one of the better offensive minds in the NFL right now, who can really continue that development process. And now, one of the things you keep bringing up is his passing ability. Is he where he needs to be yet? No, but he is improving. Now, once he gets in the right system and under the right coach, like Shanahan, that will continue to work and continue to grow. He'll continue to develop to possibly be in one of the better passers in the league. But that's one destination I'd like to see him go to. Another destination that some people have mentioned possibly is Pittsburgh. We all know that Big Ben.
Love that move.
Right, and it makes sense because Big Ben has had some injury issues here as of late. And then too, he's also just been really on the fence about how much longer he's going to play, and you really haven't got like a solid commitment of what he's going to do. So this conceivably could be his last year in the league. So you could plug Jalen in there because obviously Mason Rudolph is not the answer, nor is Hodges. At least they haven't proved that to us just yet. Another situation, which some people have speculated before, is going to the New England Patriots. They're minus Tom Brady, and presumably that role is going to be fulfilled by Jarrett Stidham. But just how confident are the Patriots in Stidham? And what better system, what better coach for Jalen to fall into than the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick? Someone who's been known to get the most out of any player he's brought in there and who was able to turn Tom Brady into the superstar he is today. So that would be a really good opportunity for Jalen if he was to land there.
Yeah, obviously, Patriots have the 23rd spot. The guy above him, will probably be Jordan Love. Do you think it really depends where Jordan Love goes, Steven?
Jordan Love is very interesting to me because the year prior to this past season where Love had his coaching staff with him at Utah State, he had a lot of talent around him. Love really flourished throwing the football, being able to ad-lib, make off-scripted, on-the-fly types of throws. And then this past season where, he didn't have, where his coach got fired, and you bring in, Gary Anderson, he has to come in, and, Coach Anderson struggled. Jordan Love did not have the weapons that he thought he would have around him, and that's when you kind of saw his numbers take a back seat, which it doesn't mean that Love is not good. It just meant that he suffered due to the degree of the circumstances he was placed in. So I still think there's a huge ceiling, there's a huge upside to Jordan Love. A lot of these national analysts, when you talk Todd McShay and Mel Kiper Jr., they're trying to compare him to Patrick Mahomes in the sense of the off-platform throws he's able to make. I like Jordan Love. It's just with him, it's another one of those issues where he's got to go to the right situation.
Justin, we both have heard Jordan Love's stock. I mean, as low as like the 23rd spot, he could go higher in the teens. Where do you think he'll go?
Man, it's really hard to say right now because the draft can be so fickle, and right now, just a lot of the material we're getting pushed out from us by the sports media is a lot of clickbait, basically. And so you kind of wonder, how much of what they're putting out there is actually legit. But the trend is right now, it just seems like everybody is really just trying to sell the idea that Jordan Love could potentially be in the top 10 as well as the early teens. Me personally, I don't think you draft him that high. I'm not as impressed with him as I am with the other quarterbacks. I don't like his lack of consistency. I didn't like his output this past season. But me personally, I could see him going in the 20s.
How about high as the Jaguars? Do you think he can go there?
I think it's quite possible. You just kind of have to ask the question, just how sold are the Jaguars on Gardner Minshew? Do they really believe he is their guy of the future? We don't really know, but you got to also wonder if someone of value, especially the quarterback position, is there, will they jump on it?
Steve?
My thought here is I look at pick 13, the Indianapolis Colts. I know the Colts recently just brought in Philip Rivers on a 1-year deal, but and Chris Ballard is probably one of the smartest GMs in the game right now, a young guy. How solid or how intrigued would Chris Ballard be into thinking, okay, we've got Philip Rivers, let's bring in a young guy that Philip could teach for about a year, and then let's get, this Jordan Love kid acclimated. Could you see the Colts at pick 13 roll that dice?
Justin?
And that's very well possible because you just mentioned a very key factor right there is that this is a 1-year deal. So
For sure.
How much longer is Philip Rivers going to play? How much longer does he want to play, and how much can he actually physically play?
Which his arm is shot up, I heard, but
well, I've heard rumblings about that, but we really won't know until the season starts. But if you're the Colts, you do have to think in the back of your mind, there's got to be something in place for the future. So they very well could use that pick, for Jordan Love.
we got to make a correction here, guys. The Colts, their first pick is until the second round and the 34th pick. Because they
oh wow, okay,
yeah, because they gave up their pick to
to
the Niners, who is number 13.
okay,
Who can get Jalen Hurts or a Jordan Love at that? But why would they? I mean, Garoppolo's there. I mean, there's no reason to get a quarterback.
I mean, right now, if you look at it, San Fran with John Lynch, they're sitting pretty right now.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to our next segment, Alabama players in the NFL